You are listening to the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome to the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast, where four guys talk about who lives and who dies in horror movies, of course. And my name is Colin, and today I'm joined by Luke.
Hello, what's up?
Jake.
Hello.
And Daniel.
Hello.
And welcome to the first ever episode of the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast. Now, before we get started with today's episode, I just want to make sure that we tell everybody that please, if you enjoy this episode of the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast, to drop us a follow here, whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube. Just hit that follow button. And we also have an Instagram page, which is at sit and slash HMP, sit slash HMP. Those are the words. We would appreciate the follow. That's where we'll be posting all of our content as well as all of our updates. Now, as our first episode into the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast, we are here to just have some fun with some horror movies, and we are going to talk about what got us into horror. And just starting with me, you know, I probably have the most unique story out of the four guys here. And just to give a little bit of a background for me, I did not like horror movies growing up. I was incredibly scared of horror movies growing up. I had shitty brothers that would lock me in rooms in the dark and play horror movies on the TV screen.
I'm sorry to hear that, Colin.
Yeah,
it was a real tragedy. So that kind of stunned me away from being on the horror movie scene for a very long time until I actually met Luke in marching band, nonetheless. And we originally bonded over a different topic, which was pro wrestling, which I'm sure comments about pro wrestling will come up as we talk. But then this beautiful game that is no longer with us, rest its soul in glory, Friday the 13th on Xbox. And
absolutely peak. We love it.
That was... Jake, did you get to play that game?
Yes, I did. I actually got to play quite a bit. Also because of Luke, actually, funnily enough. And just...
I'm keeping it together. I'm the guy.
Yeah, I wish I want it back. I want it
They made
back.
it back, right?
We have no idea.
There is a chance. There's a chance because the copyright. You said the copyright was available again, or something like that.
Yeah, like the lawsuit finally got settled, I believe.
Oh, cool. So, anyways, when I got into this, I was like, oh my god, I don't really know anything about horror movies. I kind of shied away from them. So my introduction to horror was a video game, and thus led me to my first horror series, which is Friday the 13th. Now, I'm not saying that's my favorite horror series. Some people will say it's not even a horror series at all. It's more of a slasher. But that is what my introduction was. And let me tell you, there were a lot of killings and a lot of boobs in that one. So me as a young teenager about to go into my adult life was very excited for these movies. But then, you know, it just kind of progressed, and I have become incredibly desensitized to horror movies, which is probably not good for someone who helps people with trauma. I have a background in psychology, so naturally my gravitation of horror movies was just to, you know, psychological thrillers and psychological distressing things that just make you feel like, oh shit, something's gonna go down. And it just progressed from there, and here we are. So that's all I got. Who wants to go next?
You forgot to talk about the best horror game that also was with Friday the 13th.
What's that, Daniel?
Dude, the amazing horror game of Dead by Daylight. How much you love that game?
That's
Just
a topic for another day, I think.
I think we can make a short clarification in that we each kind of met each other around the same time, all funnily enough via marching band. So that's probably going to be something we'll touch on in each of our stories. But we all actually bonded together over, at first, Friday the 13th, but then Dead by Daylight.
And Minecraft, but we're going to ignore that part.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Minecraft. Minecraft can be spooky in its own right, but primarily I would say Dead by Daylight, although I still would prefer Friday the 13th, if I'm being honest.
I can agree on that. I think as the guy that kind of spread that culture a bit, I can definitely confirm that that would be something that would be really good to come back. I think I'll actually segue into my story now, because mine actually involves Friday the 13th pretty heavily, not the game, the franchise. Now, me getting into horror was a saga, let me tell you. And it was actually many years before I met any of you guys. I was much younger, and so we're talking around 2009 or 2010.
This is
actually,
because
when I
Luke
got-
is old.
No,
Yeah.
you suck.
Old man.
I'm not even
Luke
the
is Luke is an old dad. He has 3 children. One of them just happens to be his own father.
That's funny.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Luke,
so
Luke does not have children. We'll just
I
clarify
do not.
that. Luke
I'm
does
not a
not have
dad.
children.
I'm not a dad. I'm also not even the oldest one in this podcast. So
I don't know who that could be.
Yeah, I don't know who that could
Right.
be either.
anyway, so my horror origins started in 2009 and 2010 roughly, and you guys only know part of the story. That'll come in later. That is not what initially did this. Of all things, my horror introduction starts with Roblox, and
Wait
Yeah.
a minute.
it starts with Roblox, actually. Yes. So it was Roblox that indirectly got me into horror because I was big into Roblox around that time. I mean, I was like 8. So, I mean, it was big. It still is big. And so I was playing Roblox and I found a game that I liked called Survive the Disasters. And not natural disaster survival. That's a different popular Roblox game, but Survive the Disasters.
I was
think
about to say, did you get horror movie vibes from like the Sandstorm?
No. I'll explain. This will be big. This will be big.
It's
Nowadays,
gonna be huge.
the game is still up. By the way, it's now called Survive the Disasters Classic. Which, ouch. But anyways, so
We told you were old.
Classic,
Shut-
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so one of the disasters, they would come in like intermittent waves, like maybe like 30 seconds between each tops.
Sounds familiar.
But one of the disasters was it just would pop up on the screen with a warning and it just said Jason. And I'm just like, who the hell is this guy? He's got like a mask and a big knife. And so little me was like, okay, I'm going to start Googling things about this masked guy with a knife. And so I started figuring out, I'm like, oh my God, he's this undead killing machine. That's awesome. Like, I just was like, all right, that's really cool.
So like your dad.
So what I did was, I approached my mom, who is extremely religious and does not like horror movies at all.
Extremely.
And she like Friday the 13th came out when she was like 15 or 16. So she had seen them when she was young and hated it like tremendously. And so now her little wholesome 8-year-old son comes up to her and is like, Mom, can I watch Friday the 13th? And so now she's horrified. She's like, absolutely not. Because she knows like, there's a lot of nudity. It's very violent. And she didn't want her little
Boobies, as we discussed.
Yeah, she didn't want her little 8-year-old son watching all that stuff. It seemed too mature. However, at the same time, she didn't want to completely disappoint me and shield me from horror outright. So what we were doing one day was like Comcast On Demand. Do you remember those blue menus?
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, yeah,
so
back
like
in
the old Comcast On Demand. So we're going through horror movies and I'm like really pushing like, hey, I want to see the Friday the 13th. I want to see a horror movie. And she's like, she knew the content. She was like, no, I don't want you watching that one. Now my mom, not being a horror fan, is like, I'll just put on like a different one for you instead. Because she didn't want to disappoint her son, but at the same time wanted to kind of protect me. Well, she chooses a random horror movie, and what does she put on? She puts on John Carpenter's The Thing.
The thing that every 8-year-old dreams of watching someday.
Yeah, watching dogs get torn apart by a shape-shifting alien. Yeah, that one.
I did forget to mention, and what you said did bring it up, so I just wanted to put it in there, is the first memory of me, like, with horror movies is the opening scene to Friday the 13th, where, like, there's the couple up in the attic, and, like, the Pamela's, like, coming up to them, about to stab them, the scream, and then the crash of the glass right in the thing, and I remember seeing that, and I'm like, nope, and then that was when I finally unlocked the door that my brothers locked me in, or it might have been my cousin. My family's fucked up, dude. They just, I don't know. But yeah, continue. My bad.
No, you're good. So I had the opposite effect. I watched like the shape-shifting alien and I was like captivated. And then like later on, there's like they're doing the blood test and they try to put like this hot poker in this like vial of blood, because what they did is they took blood samples from everybody, and they were trying to see who the alien was. Well, at one point on the
This is
last guy,
spoilers. This is spoilers, by the way, for anybody who
This
hasn't
is-
seen this.
I
the
mean, that
movie's
kind
I
of
mean,
goes
the movie's
without
like
saying.
60 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah, but you never know.
40
You
something.
never know.
40 something. Anyway, so when that blood jumped out of that beaker, and then the one guy that they figured out was the alien, he like starts like convulsing, and then he melts, and then his skull splits in half into like a giant mouth. I was sold. Basically, what happened with my mom and me was it was like the quote from Master Oogway in Kung Fu Panda, where he goes, "One often listen to me." He goes, "One often meets his destiny in his attempt to avoid it." That was my mom when it came to horror. She was going to put one on and hope I was like, no, I don't like that. And instead, she put on one of the best horror movies ever, and it just locked me in. And ever since, I've been into horror. I've been into horror for like 15, 16 years now.
You know, when most kids talk about like the splitting of somebody's skull open at age 8, usually that is the beginning of a antisocial personality disorder.
I'm very social. And, and
Very
Yeah,
social.
it was amazing. I love that movie. And it's really well written too. Like little kids don't care about like plot or like filming or music score or anything. Like it's a brilliant movie, but little me was just captivated by like this dude melting and chomping on a guy with his skull. I was just like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I
And then
mean,
I was locked in forever.
in terms of showing a kid horror when they only care about what's on the screen, if you think about it that way, that's a pretty good movie to show a kid. Now, there are,
Yeah,
of
the
course, other
thing-
ways of thinking about it, which may be more concerning.
Like, you know, an
But,
8-year-old being like, "That's awesome! A guy getting his head ripped open."
Yeah.
Or, like,
gotta-
spider legs protruding from a head and then starting to crawl across the floor.
Or they're like gonna use a defibrillator on a guy, and they're like, clear, and then the guy's chest opens up entirely, and it's like a giant mouth, and it bites the medic's arms off. And I was just like, this is awesome. And I was just, that's how it was since. I was just like,
I know that
captivated by
nobody
that.
that will ever listen to this will know this, but Luke is his dad 100% in that
No.
circumstance.
No.
Mhm.
Oh, well, yeah. When it comes to gratuitous violence, that's very appreciated in a lot of
Mhm.
things. But yeah, so my introduction to horror is a whole saga that the little, like, you know, the meme of like the dominoes, how there's like the little one and then the giant one. So you go from Luke playing Roblox at the end of 2009 to horror movie podcast in 2025.
Which is also ironic because one of the two of the horror movies that horror games that we played for recording when we did YouTube back in the day was on Roblox. We did The Maze and we did Siren Head.
That's true, yeah.
Full
Roblox
circles.
horror.
Don't go
Roblox horror.
looking. Don't go looking for our YouTube channel, by the way.
No, there's a bunch of great moments. What do you? No, they should go find it. Yeah, Jake
Dan,
has
I'm
my
pretty
contact.
sure you'd never have a job again if we directed
No. No, it's okay. Listen, it's fine. I'm a changed man. That was how many years ago? 5 years ago, probably 5 to 6
I
years
think
ago.
we're all
That's
changed
true.
men, Dan, but that doesn't change shit.
I see. It's okay.
Okay, so all right, Cullen and I went. Now one of the
Well,
other
before
guy.
we go that, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and we will be right back with the rest of the introductions to horror.
Hey, are you enjoying the podcast? If so, drop this podcast follow. For updates and announcements, check out our Instagram page at sit/HMP. Thanks for listening.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast where we've been giving our takes on how we got into horror movies. So, Dan, Jake, which one of you wants to continue with your story?
We've been going by age, so I guess I'll have to go next.
Haha, Dan,
Um,
you're young. Wait a minute, you just called me old.
Ah, yeah, you're old.
bitch.
We're all getting old.
Go, Jake.
Alright, so my delving into horror is actually a little bit scattered, kind of like my personality a little bit, but so
We prefer chaotic, actually.
you're right. Chaotic is a better word, but going into it. So I kind of started with a couple movies I was watching when I was younger, kind of like with these other two guys. The first movie that I remember scaring me is actually not a movie you would expect. It's a Disney movie called Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's a adaptation, I think, of a novel by Ray Bradbury, which, now that I say that out loud, honestly, that tracks, but it's about the devil going to this Midwestern American town and shenanigans ensue. And of course, like, it's a Disney movie. If you watch it, you're probably not going to be scared. But, like, there's just scenes that are just weird and wacky. There's, like, a carousel that ages and de-ages people. At one point, someone gets stuck on it while it's spinning forever. They just literally turn into, like, a mummy. It's great.
That's actually pretty fucked up.
I'm not gonna lie, Jake. When you said that it was a Disney movie, I thought you were gonna be like, "Oh, I was really scared of Lion King."
I don't think I've ever seen The Lion King, actually, but that's a
What?
topic for another.
What?
Wait,
Really? No.
Well, hey, hold on. This is a horror podcast, but we gotta stay
Yeah,
on this
that's a
subject.
horror
Right. No, no,
You
no.
haven't seen
Jake's
it.
right. Jake's right. Jake's right. Let's
Oh.
get
and
on-
that's
keep going with
scary
this
that
point.
you have had no childhood.
Oh my god.
Because
Okay.
you didn't watch SpongeBob, you didn't watch The Lion King.
We're getting
Oh
off
my
topic.
God.
We're getting off
Oh my-
topic. Let Jake
all right.
speak on the horror.
Yeah. These guys find it horrifying. These goobers think I came out of a lab. I didn't. But they like to pretend I did.
Real
Because I'm
convincing.
not like them.
Mm.
Anyways. So, then I watched another movie. My mom put this on. I mean, I love my mom, but not the best horror film put on. Because it's a little bit confusing. It's a film called Phantasm. Now, I've since gone back to the film. It is an incredible film. Absolutely wonderful horror movie. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend it.
Agreed.
But the only thing you gotta be aware of during your first time going through, it can be confusing. The whole point is that it feels like a dream of some sort. So that's, like I said, not necessarily the best thing to show a child. But I mean, it worked. Then after that, there was nothing for a little bit. Nothing really came of that. But then while I was in, like, middle school, I think. Oh no, not even middle school, elementary school. I got onto the internet, as one does when they're that young,
oh man.
and happened upon a little known thing at the time known as creepypasta. I think
Yes.
the first thing I found was Jeff the Killer, which I
I'm
found
sorry
too
to hear
scary
that.
to read. It's absolutely a product of its time, the original Jeff the Killer story, but I was too young and I was scared and I was not desensitized. So I went to another story. The first creepypasta story I think I read through entirely was Eyeless Jack. And I think that's since got me hooked. I got hooked on the other creepypastas. I got hooked on Slenderman especially. Slenderman was a big one. Tiki Toby was another great one. I absolutely love that one. I think I have a Tiki Toby hoodie still, yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that Slenderman really turned out to be a great media adaptation.
I hate.
Unfortunately, creepypasta did not have the best end. Its community kind of became a monster in of itself, just drowned in like cancer and just weird. Like everybody started shipping everybody else. Everybody just took. They didn't go for the horror side of it. They went to like this cringe fandom. It's like basically It's like the father of all cringe fandoms that you see nowadays, like the forefather of it all, if you can
Lot of-
imagine that.
Self-insert out the ass. Like Jake is completely
Yep.
correct on that.
Yes. And there was even drama in a lot of these creators because anybody can make a creepypasta. That was the whole idea of it. But unfortunately, when you have everybody open, there's going to be a few people that just kind of like drag it down, I guess. And then there were some events. There was a real world event that kind of marked the beginning of the end. there was a stabbing, I think I want to say 2015.
I believe that's correct. Wisconsin.
Yep, and there was the stabbing because I think two girls believed in Slender Man. They wanted to impress him, so they stabbed another one of their friends. That did not.
And Jake has frozen.
Uh-oh.
We will wait for Jake's.
You have editing powers, right?
I hope so.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just leave this in because this is kind of entertaining.
Okay, hang on. Let me text him.
Yeah, he's just going. Like, could you imagine if he's just going on with his story right now?
Froze. I'm texting him
Workout,
right now.
and went. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
All right.
There he is. He's back. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that you guys froze. I could still hear you guys for a second, so that was weird.
Okay. All right. It wasn't that bad then. Okay.
All right. So picking up where we left off. So that stabbing where like the girls stabbed because they believed in Slender Man. More or less kind of oversimplifying, but that kind of marked the beginning of the end. Then there was the Slender Man movie. We don't talk about that movie. And the last big creepypasta, or at least something you could consider a creepypasta, would be the Backrooms. That was in like 2018, 2019, and I was kind of out of it at that point. But then another thing came along. And Dan probably remembers when I was in this big time because we were in the same grade going to school. Five Nights at Freddy's hit the mainstream. And it was, I think, through YouTube channels like Markiplier that I got into this new medium. Well, not new medium, but I got into horror games. And
new platform then.
Yeah, you could put it that way. Yeah, new platform. So another thing I was hooked on. So I just been kind of bouncing around on horror things. First, it was these weird movies I saw as a child. Then it was creepypasta. Then it was FNAF. And from there, things kind of simmer down until I meet all these goobers in marching band. Mm-hmm. Actually, I met Luke before I was in marching band because I met him in like middle school. And he eventually would get me into Dead by Daylight. And also Friday the 13th. But Dead by Daylight, I think, came first. Roughly.
I think it did.
Anyways, Dead by Daylight, for those who don't know. Asymmetrical horror game. One player's a killer. There's 4 survivors. Killer tries to kill everybody. Survivors try to survive, as one does.
Really?
Best summary I've ever heard in my life.
Almost
the killers kill.
But the thing with Dead by Daylight, their big claim to fame, even now, especially now, is that they have other licenses. So, for example, when we were in the game, they had already collaborated with the Halloween franchise, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and actually I think just as we joined, they added Ash Williams from the Evil Dead franchise, which, what a time. What a time that was. But yeah, so that served actually as a gateway, funnily enough, into getting me into horror movies. And I think the biggest couple for me were definitely Halloween and Saw. Halloween and Saw were definitely the most influential for me. I just went through those franchises, just drove through them. Me and Luke watched like almost all of the Saw movies, I think.
We did. We watched them together over the span of like a few months in 2019.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good time, especially since that was the time before everything fucking died. But for that,
it's funny with that, Jake, because I just repeated that process with Cullen earlier this year.
That's true. That was last year, Luke. That was last year.
Was it really?
A year?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes.
I didn't
But,
have my job yet. Oh man. Okay.
Hold on, wait.
All right, go
Uh,
wait.
ahead, Jake.
Yeah,
I'm
because we were
sorry.
still getting lunch. We were still getting lunch together and going to
Yeah,
your
that's right.
house.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry,
Mm.
Jake. Go ahead.
But yeah, so Dead by Daylight, not the most horrifying thing, but it serves as a gateway, and I still appreciate it for that, even to this day. But then there was another game. There was a game I got like in 2018, 2019 when it came out, and I just kind of sat in my backlog until I remembered it existed and was like, huh, maybe I should give this game a shot. I've been hearing like all these different things about this franchise. That franchise was Resident Evil, and that game was the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, good, great game.
Amazing.
It is still
Never
one
played
of
it.
my. I've granted it's probably not your cup of tea, but it comes to games, but I would still recommend it. And honestly, it's I know it's not necessarily the best Resident Evil game,
It's up there.
but it's still probably my favorite, just for the sole fact that it actually got me to playing horror games and actually got me into a beloved franchise, which I still love to this day. But yeah, that was pretty much the last of the milestones, and then ever since then, I've been kind of on and off with horror. I've watched some movies, I played some games, and then I take a break and go to other things, and then I come back. You guys will come to learn this as we do more of the podcast. I am Chaos Incarnate, so
Yeah, out of the four of us, that is definitely the case for
Also
sure.
comes with an autism disorder.
Oh my god.
Diagnosis,
been
not disorder.
I have not been diagnosed of anything as of yet. We never really checked. We never had to. Oh shit.
Okay, Jake, that was really good. Dude. That was good. That was
We
smooth.
never had to.
Yeah, that's kind of my journey. It's just been like bouncing around until finally I had like a group of friends who helped it stick for me. And yeah, now I'm here. Like I said, I met all these guys in marching band. Well, primarily marching band. Luke was the great uniter
The
of
great uniter.
all of us.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm the one. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. And most of the horror, like I said, was Dead by Daylight. Because back in the day, we would just Dead by Daylight, you have 4 survivors, usually. Now they've added like other game modes where there's 8. But usually it's 4 survivors. And we would try to survive it together.
And
And then
always get
sometime-
killed.
Yeah, Colin, they always went after Colin. I don't know why. Colin's a really nice guy. So
They look like they know him personally.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that Colin kid's in the game. Get him.
Oh man, look! Listen to this. This guy here. He's nice. Let's ruin his day.
They were
It's
just
funny
racist.
because Dead by Daylight is definitely, even to this day, has still had an influence on what I like in the horror genre. Like Michael Myers is one thing. Like I said, I got into the Halloween franchise. I have since watched all the Halloween movies, for better or worse.
Oh man,
Don't watch all the Halloween movies, kids.
That's another
It's not
day.
good
That's
for your
another
health.
day.
that's for another day as well.
That is for another day as well. Yes, I agree. But yeah. Yep. That's my journey. Sorry if that
Yes.
was chaotic.
It's okay. We're used to it at this point, Jake.
Hopefully they'll get used to it too. But in the meantime,
All right.
let's bring some order to things. Dan, you ready?
Hold on,
Yeah,
wait
so-
1 second before you start, Dan. It's funny because like whenever you guys are like saying like oh creepy pastas and things of that nature, it just makes me feel so old because I did not know what creepy pasta was until like 2018, 2019.
I don't understand why either, though, Cullen, because like obviously the people that would be watching this do not know how old we are. None of us are that old. We're all in our early 20s.
We feel old, but we're not biologically
Me-
old.
Right. Well, me and Cullen are both 01 kids, and then Jake is and Daniel are a couple years younger than us, respectively. So, like, the culture divide shouldn't be that big. But Cullen, I know creepypasta, and I'm closer in age to you than I am them two.
Well, here's the
I
thing.
think
I was sheltered from horror for the longest time.
That's true. Yeah, you did mention
And
that.
I was
You
about to
did that,
say.
my bad.
I was about to say. Even though the whole premise of creepypasta was that it would be copied and pasted throughout the internet, hence the term creepypasta. It comes
Is that
from the
what it's
term
called?
copy.
That?
Oh
I
my
never knew
God.
that. I never knew
Yeah, it comes from the term copypasta, which is where it was. Yeah,
if
that's
it makes you feel any better, Dan, I didn't know that either, but I
Wow,
also
that's
just
crazy.
Oh, what?
I didn't read
listen,
them.
listen. I was about to say, yeah, even if they were like being permeated throughout the internet by like people who would literally copy and paste them, if that's not the thing you're looking out for, and just Colin, I guess you would have been on the internet to like look at like Roblox and stuff. I'm guessing, probably.
Roblox gamer
No, I
Cullen.
thought. See, when I was younger, the main things that I watched on YouTube were like the top like gamer type people at the time. Like I wasn't because like I like no horror entered my life. I didn't even watch people play horror games because I was too scared to watch them.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I didn't
That
even know
would
what
be.
I didn't even know what Five Nights at Freddy was until like 2018, 2019 when
Oh,
I was friends with
man.
Luke. Like I
I.
was late to the game, man.
No. That's fine, man. If it's just not what you're looking for, I can see why you didn't come across it. But in the meantime, we have delayed enough. Daniel, I hope
Yeah.
you're ready.
Daniel. All right.
Dan, I don't think you have a choice now. You have to do it.
I have to go now, yeah, because of that.
I mean, you are also the last one
This is true. Yes, oldest to
with your
youngest.
disembodied head right now.
Well, yeah. So oldest to youngest, I am the youngest one. So I shall go. I shall go now. So my dad is a big horror fan. He has loved horror movies since he was a kid. So my gateway into horror was through him. What? Can you not hear me?
No, I can. Jake
No,
just
you're
took like a
fine, you're
giant
fine.
drink of water, like leaning halfway back in his chair. So I was just.
I
Jake-
wasn't even looking.
Jake's chaotically disrupting again. Go ahead, Dan.
Anyway, so my horror gateway was originally from like my dad trying to like show me horror movies when I was younger. And part of it was on me because I also had like interest as I was growing up. So technically my first horror movie I ever watched. Now, this some people don't consider this a horror movie. Some people call it a thriller, some people say horror. It depends, but I'm going to say it just cuz it was technically the first. I saw Jaws at a very young age. I was actually at a distant relative of mine. I was staying at their house, and their house has like an in-home movie theater, and it was like a big and it looked like it was like the size of an actual movie theater screen. So little kid me, like 9-year-old me, was getting to watch Jaws on a movie theater screen, which was awesome, and I was horrified. But I think that really like opened my eyes to like the world of horror. And then the next day we had to go to the beach. So I didn't
Oh, man.
yeah, we were
It's so fucked up.
we had to go. My mom was like, "Yeah, we were going to the beach tomorrow," and I was just like, "What?" Like, I do not.
Okay, that's funny as shit.
And that was the day Dan spent on the sand.
Dude, I like how the rest of our stories were like we slowly trickled into horror, and then Dan's is just nuclear from the start.
If only Dan knew that he muted his microphone and he would be actually talking to us right now.
Yeah.
It's alright, we have editing powers.
Dan, did you mute your microphone on your headset? Did you unplug your microphone?
Oh, there he is.
Is that
There we
better?
go.
Yep, there you
Yes.
What the hell happened?
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I'm just gonna like not touch the headphone jack because that seems to be what's doing it. How
I'm
much of that?
keeping everything in. Just after you said we said like you were on the beach and then
Oh,
you're
okay.
like
After I said nuclear, you went silent. We
That's
just see
fine.
this-
Okay. So that was my first experience into that. My dad had nothing to do with that. But then after that initial like little like taste, my dad like he really started to get me into horror. So I saw this was in 20, I think 13 is when this movie came out. I saw a trailer for Insidious Chapter 2, which the James Wan movies Insidious, they're pretty decent. I mean, The Conjuring's better, but we'll get into that another day. And I saw this trailer for Insidious Chapter 2 and I was like, "Oh, I got to watch the first one." So, my dad and I watched the original Insidious. That was technically my first like pure horror movie.
Good.
It was a pretty good introduction. I mean, like very loud, very jump scare heavy, but I thought the story was still good. I enjoyed it a lot. I started watching more paranormal. Like I grew up with paranormal movies. That actually might be the biggest difference between us. Is that like it seems like Cullen and Luke, you guys grew up more on like slashers. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't know about Jake. Um, but
It was just
I
weird, man.
yeah, I mean Phantasm is such a weird. Yeah, no, I don't know. But I grew up much more on paranormal movies. I watched like The Grudge when I was younger. I watched The Ring. I think like the American Ring, and The American Grudge. Um, so then let me think, what else did I watch? There was just a few like ghost movies my dad would put on and like show me because he thought they were good. And most of them were, though he has some funny horror hot takes, as we'll maybe talk about another episode. Just I'll mention them because they're very funny. Um, and so from there, the paranormal love grew and grew, and eventually, I'm really trying to remember what my first slasher movie was. I think it was a Halloween movie.
Really? That interests me, given your
Yeah. Speaking that, I'm probably the least Halloween fan out of the four of us.
not definitely, not probably.
I think it was either Halloween 5 or 6. I bought a
Oh,
That
Well,
would
yeah.
explain it.
I bought
oh.
No, listen, I was walking around the yard sale, okay, and I saw a Halloween VHS tape and I was like, "Oh, I want to buy it." And so it was like $5 or something, and my mom was like, "Sure, why not?" And so she let me get it, watched it.
Overpriced when you think of the movie.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, dude, those movies suck. But
Hey,
those
No,
two,
no, he's
5 and
right.
6.
Okay.
He's right.
well,
Oh,
he
I-
said those
I-
movies, so I didn't know if he was.
No,
Uh,
no,
5 and
just
6.
5 and 6, they're horrible.
5 and 6 are some of the movies that are not good for your health. For those in the audience, please do not watch Halloween 5 and 6. It is not recommended by your local doctor.
If you have seen it, we're sorry, and we relate to your pain. You relate to our pain.
You may be
Yeah.
liable
Entitled.
for financial compensation. Not liable.
Liable.
But so yeah, I think like I just started like I watched a few slasher movies here and there. I was never actually really that big into them until I met you guys, until we became friends. Honestly, it probably was because of Luke and
Oh man.
your love for slasher movies and then everybody else's love for slasher movies. Plus playing Dead by Daylight with you guys and finding all those killers and then me realizing I want to go through and watch those movies. And so I would just binge them. I do have before that, I actually do have a memory of me sitting down in my living room when I was a kid. I think this was after the initial paranormal ghost movie wave that I went through. The original Nightmare on Elm Street came on TV, and I remember watching like the opening sequence and then up until the bedroom kill where she's like flung around the bedroom and this and that, and then my mom made us turn it off because my mom is not a fan of horror movies at all. She also hates them, just like Luke's mom. Maybe not quite as much, but she does not like them either. But yeah, so my early childhood with horror movies was very much my mom not approving and my dad sneaking me into like watching them whenever she's not around.
As all good dads do.
Yeah, seriously. No, yeah, yeah, I would not be a horror fan probably without him, at least with the paranormal sense. Slasher movies, I bet you I'd still be here where I am now, but I didn't I guess I should also mention creepypasta as well, because I also grew up on a bit of that. I remember like I would watch like Watch Mojo top 10 scariest creepypasta videos. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, dude, this is the
There's, like-
scariest thing.
With that, the lady that like everyone recognizes her voice.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
would just be like, because that's how I learned about them, was not through the actual creepypasta stories, but rather from Watch Mojo lady telling me about them. Speaking of that, I actually do have very early horror interaction that I had. So
Did you meet
when
the
I
Watch Mojo lady?
no, this is
Oh.
different. And actually, I don't know if Jake remembers this, but Jake was here for this. So Jake and I are
Jake
we
was
went.
scared.
Well, no, it's okay. He had nothing to do with the actual scariness, but so Jake and I used to do Cub Scouts together. Why are you laughing? Luke's laughing at me. My words, my Nis words. Anyway,
Keep going.
Jake and I went to Cub Scouts together when we were younger. We grew up doing that, and there was a time where we went to go like camp in like it wasn't like outdoor camping, but we stayed in like these lodges, and they were out in like the middle of the woods. Like not in the middle of the woods, but there was like woods nearby. Anyway, I don't remember what other kids are there besides me and Jake and whoever else was around, maybe a couple other friends of mine. But that's the day that I found out about Slender Man, was while we were
No.
watching with
No.
woods around. So
Dude, you got fucked. First you were like Jaws, then the beach. Now Slender Man in the forest.
Dude, it was everything was nuclear for Dan. Jaws, let's go to the beach. I'm camping. Let me tell you about Slender Man.
That's what it was, dude. It was like, oh look, we're in the woods, and then someone was probably just like, I heard Slender Man's in these woods, and then it's just, what's Slender Man? And then the kid, one other kid told me, yeah, it's this dude and like who wears like this suit, and he has these long tentacles, and he takes kids into the woods and like puts them in trees and stuff, and I was just like, what? And like childhood memes horrified, and this okay. Also, let it be known, I'm an only child, and this was the first time I was like away from my mom, and I was not like it was just I was not
No.
ready for it. So all I could think about the entire night, we were trying to sleep in these like in these like lodges, and all I could think about was Slender Man is going to come to the lodge and kill me and take me away. And I was just horrified, and I called my mom in the middle of the night, or I had somebody call my mom in the middle of the night, one of the camp counselor people, and she had to come at like 2 a.m. and pick me up, I think, or it might have been like 12 or 1, I don't know, but she had to come pick me up. And when asked why, I had to say because Slender Man's in the woods.
Oh, you poor bastard.
Same thing happened with
What's next? Did you find out about Five Nights at Freddy's and then go to
No.
Chuck E. Cheese's?
No, but the same thing. No, that's funny though. That's funny. No. By then, I think I was like old enough to like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever been to Chuck E. Cheese actually. But anyway, I don't know.
It's fine.
The same thing happened with Bloody Mary. My cousin told me about Bloody Mary, and I was a kid. I think this is before Slender Man actually, and was like, yeah.
Did you go to like a House of Mirrors or something?
Well, no, it's just in my bedroom, I have a mirror on my desk, like a big mirror, and if I look in, I can see the mirror like when I'm sleeping, and so I'm like, dude,
God.
I'm gonna summon Bloody Mary in my sleep somehow. I'm gonna say her name in my sleep, and then she's gonna be there when I wake up. And I cried, went to my mom's room, and I had to tell her why, and then I got my cousin in trouble because of it. So it was.
So what
So
you're
those-
saying is you were a little bitch.
I didn't listen. I was
This
probably
dude was
like,
a victim.
I'm a victim, dude. Yeah.
I think life was a big bitch to him, rather.
Listen, those are the two big scary things that happened to me when I was younger, like when it comes to like discovering horror things. By the time Five Nights at Freddy's came around, I was very into that, obviously. I think, Luke, Jake, and I all were. And by then I was like,
We didn't
all
know
right.
each other yet either. That we just all
No.
happened to individually be into it.
I remember
So
when
Dan probably
Markiplier-
remembers me jump scaring all the other kids in school
I do.
because I thought it was cool. And
I do
then
remember that.
it was not cool when I went down to the principal's office.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's funny.
You're tall as shit. How did you jump scare people?
By
I would
being
just-
tall, they can just loom over them while they're trying to write on
Listen,
a test.
I learned from a very young age how to sneak about quietly. I don't know how I did it, but I did. And then I would sneak up and then just loudly yell behind them, and then they did not enjoy it. They did not
Imagine you're trying to
enjoy
do a test, and then Jake just out of nowhere just like just out of nowhere when you're trying
it.
to.
Okay, it was not during tests at least. I was not that. I was a stupid little kid, but I wasn't that stupid.
No, but yeah. So I was very big into Five Nights at Freddy's. That was technically the first ever horror game I played, I guess, because I never played Roblox growing up. I think it was Five Nights at Freddy's, and then that was like my life for several years. And then the first like real horror game was also Resident Evil, like Jake said, except mine was Resident Evil 7 instead of the 2 remake, which
Also
was
an
because
amazing
of
game.
yeah, because that was honestly a mixture of you guys plus my cousin getting me into Resident Evil.
Might be
But
the only one that hasn't played Resident Evil.
yes, you
Yes.
are. Us three all have.
And that eventually does need to change, Cullen. That's pretty high priority.
I
Yeah.
think it's just, Colin, you haven't played many horror games, have you?
Nah, just Friday the 13th, Roblox, and
Dead by
Okay.
Daylight.
Dead by
I love
Daylight,
that we're
and
talking
Ash
about.
vs Evil Dead.
I love that we're talking about Roblox like that's this like like Mount Rushmore bastion of horror.
Yeah,
When-
seriously.
when we keep coming back to Roblox, but like
It does have some pretty damn good horror games on its own. It does.
the maze, the doors, those are pretty good.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's all right, Colin. You just get to things. There's some things I haven't done yet. Let me think. What's some? Trying to think of
Dex.
some horror.
Jesus. Oh my god.
Oh yes,
Oh.
the pivotal horror movie. Saxon.
Oh man, that's funny.
Oh.
Colin, unfortunately, we might need to cut that out. I'm sorry.
This guy's got editing powers.
Not,
You
not
damn well
sexy.
better with that joke. He damn well
Yeah.
better.
Or the
I'm
jump
trying to think
scares
of
are
his-
going to return. Jake's going to bring back the jump scares here soon.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else like influential or like landmark worthy in my horror experience. I'm trying to think of the first horror movie I saw in theaters because I don't think any of you guys ever mentioned that. I think mine, sadly, was the Poltergeist remake. It was so bad. It was either that or it was Annabelle, which also was pretty bad. So I can't remember. It was somewhere around then, though. I think is when I started going to theaters to see horror movies.
Mine kind of. I'm sorry. I'm also
No,
gonna
you're
kind of
good.
go
Yeah.
along the theme of first horror movies in theaters. I think mine, funnily enough, also went along the train track of weird, because I think it was might have been Prometheus, the Alien
Oh,
movie,
wow.
which all I knew about the Alien franchise at the time was big black scary alien. Imagine my disappointment when I didn't
I'm
see it.
so glad that after you
I'm
said
so
those 3 words, you said alien. I'm so glad that that's where that went.
Yeah, oh, it was scary. Okay, anyway, keep going.
Oh god, my heart sunk for a moment there. Colin, you're
Mm.
demonetized now.
That's okay. The fight. This is just to show my how late I got into horror. Do you want to know my first horror movie in theaters was?
Hmm.
Halloween 2018.
What?
Good one. No,
That's a good one.
That's a good one to start on, brother. It's late, but it's good. You did
Hulk
it. You got
Hogan
the
is now
quality.
telling you. Hulk Hogan's telling you what good
Oh
horror
God!
movie to
Why did I
start
turn
on.
into Hulk Hogan? Oh no, I don't even like Hulk Hogan. No.
No.
Fuck that Hulk Hogan.
Anyway, I guess since everyone else said their first horror movie in theaters, I'll say mine, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Mine, I know exactly what mine was and who I was with. My first horror movie in theaters was The Conjuring,
Oh dang!
and I brought my mom. I had no
Oh,
choice. Me, because I'm very religious. My mom, just as much as me, if not more so, and she hates
More so.
horror. Oh man, that was funny. I'm like watching this, like, man, this is great, and she's like hiding in her sweater like the whole time.
Mm. Oh, do you know another early horror movie that I forgot to say that I saw at a very young age, which I should not have? was the movie Sinister. I saw that
Dude.
when I was like a child, and that movie is not meant for children. I mean,
no, really.
well, dude, but like more so than like other horror movies that I said.
Sinister is one of the most screwed up movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's for those in the audience who have not seen Sinister, the plot basically revolves around children. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, it's not a good movie for children to watch. I will say that. Don't show your children Sinister. It is a very
No.
sinister movie to show children.
God damn it. No, it's very messed up. It's a very disturbing movie, and I saw it at a very young age. I probably was like 10 or 11, maybe.
Oh,
A 12 at max, but I think that's even pushing it because it was within my first like 10 horror movies I've ever seen. So, yeah, I just remember that one because I was just talking to my dad about that actually, like right before we started recording. Funny enough, but I think that's it for my big horror like milestones. I mean, I can't really think of anything else besides the movies and I guess Five Nights at Freddy's and getting into Dead by Daylight with you guys. But yeah, I think that's it.
All right, so one last thing before we all close out for this episode of the first ever episode of the Slit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast is what does each guy think their main genre of horror is? I already said mine in the beginning, which was like psychological horror. Love the distressing, love to feel uneasy. I think their peak and my favorite movies very much represent that.
mine's definitely slasher. I mean, I don't think there's any denying it. It's absolutely slasher for me.
Hmm. I feel like, see, I don't know. I went through like a transitional phase because again, I grew up very paranormal, and then by the time I met these guys and I started playing Dead by Daylight, I transitioned into becoming a slasher fan because that's when I binged like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, all of them. And I'd say nowadays, I guess I'm more of a slasher fan, but honestly, I really love both. I'm a big fan of the paranormal demonic possession movies, and I'm a big fan of the slasher movies. So, but I'll say slasher if I had to pick one.
I have a similar case to Dan. Not so much that I had a transitional phase, but more so that just I can't really give one. I mean, my taste is just kind of broadened out since it definitely started out as slasher, I will say. But with the addition of so many other franchises like Phantasm and Saw, like I said, you can't really call those slasher movies, even if some of the movies within those franchises turn into slasher movies for the worst. And then I've also seen more paranormal movies. I've gotten into games like Resident Evil and Five Nights at Freddy's. Can't really call those slashers either. So, I mean,
Your taste is eclectic.
I'm all over the place, I would say. Primarily
shocked.
slasher. But I will say that I'm always happy to see new horror movies. Well, usually happy. Sometimes movies are less than good. I will say the genre of horror that I don't necessarily like all that much is like the new kind of emerging art horror. It's like kind of like the what A24 does, for example, as a studio. It's not
We'll
that I
get there.
don't like. It's not like. It's not like that I don't respect what they do, because artistically, as in bringing out their vision of horror movies, it's totally respectable. They do a really good job at doing that. And they're doing a very good job of being different from like other mainstream horror movies and pushing the genre forward. That's all well and good. It's just simply not for me. That's the best way I can say it. It's just either the horror movies I like them when they're simple, dumb slasher movies, or something like Saw, where it's like you gotta work your brain around it. And in fact, I fucking love the Saw franchise. I literally predicted several plot points in the Saw franchise because I loved it so much. Luke can attest to this because you saw me do it in real time.
He saw you do it.
I saw.
So good. Ah,
We did
Saw.
Saw, yeah.
But art horror, I don't know what it is, but it's just, I don't know. It doesn't scratch that itch. And I think a lot of it is actually an inside joke that we have about stuff being just brand new.
Oh boy,
We'll
Um,
get into that in a later.
we'll get into that later. Yeah.
But basically, a lot of these art horror movies, I feel like, bring stuff out of nowhere that like just like kind of like change the entire movie, shift the entire movie. It's like, well, okay, what am I watching?
Mm.
I like how the conversation went. Colin, yeah, I like psychological horror. Me, yeah, I like slashers. Dan, oh, I switched from paranormal to slasher. Jake, I hate art horror. This is like
I don't
random
hate
art
art.
horror.
I don't. Hate's a strong word. It's just not for me.
Okay.
Like it's
I know,
just
but
not
we
what
just-
I'm into.
We just got a lot of lore. I just appreciate the lore dump, Jake.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
You're good.
So,
You're good.
with that monologue of hatred towards A24, we will close out the first ever episode of the Sit and Slash Horror Movie Podcast. We appreciate you listening. Again, if you could drop us a follow on wherever you're watching right now and go to our Instagram page, and we will happily see you in the next episode. Bye.
Goodbye.
I'm glad I didn't stop recording.
Oh, that's funny.